Today we've got trigonometry escape room. I need to know 15. We need to have 15 points before we can leave. We get a point for identifying the period, the amplitude, the vertical shift, and the coordinates, both coordinates of these points for which we do not already have coordinates. And we get a point for each equation of the function that we can come up with. And for answering this question, why didn't I ask for the horizontal shift? So let's begin. Here's the first thing I want to look at. Look at the 2 points that we are given. I'm given B at -15, -6, and D at 345 and 4. So I've got a point from the bottom, and I've got the next point at the top. So I've got, so that's going to give me some vertical information. And we can also use that to get horizontal information. First of all, we know half of the points at Z and H, and we know half of the point F, because these points B and F at the bottom have to have the same Y coordinate, right? I have to have the same distance from the middle to the bottom and the middle to the top. So I have Z and H have to have the same Y coordinate. B and F have to have the same Y coordinate. So that's something that we know. Whatever goes here for the X coordinate, the Y coordinate is also -6. And up here for H, whatever's in for the X coordinate, the Y coordinate has to be a 4. And the same for point Z. Whatever the X coordinate is, the Y coordinate is 4. All the points at the top have the same Y coordinate. All the points in the middle will have the same Y coordinate. All the points at the bottom will have the same Y coordinate. So that's some information we know. That counts as 0 because I need both coordinates to describe a point. You can't say that the address of the school is 3300. That's not a place that we can find. We need 2 coordinates to describe an address. We can't just say 3300. We can't just say College Drive. We have to say the X coordinate 3300 and the Y coordinate College Drive. So I don't have any information yet. So I want to know the period or the amplitude or the vertical shift. Has anybody got that information? One of those pieces of information. The period would be 720. That's awesome. Thank you. How did you get a period of 720? Perfect. Notice that B has an X coordinate of -15, and D up at the top has an X coordinate of 345. So that's 360 apart. But that's from the bottom to the top. That's only half of a period. So you multiplied by 2, you got a period of 720. So notice that between these two, if we go from point B to D, is 1/2 a period. It's also 345. The 15 is negative. What you actually did was subtract those 2 numbers, but you simplified it. You say, "Oh, if I'm going to subtract the negative, that means I'm going to add them." So technically you subtracted them, but that means we added them. So that's why you did 345 plus 15 is 360, but that's half of a period. And so that tells you that the period is 2 times 360 or 720. Awesome. Well, now that we know that the period is 720, I know it's 720 horizontally from the point B to the point F, because B and F are both at the bottom. So we can use this period to figure out what's going on at F. And that would give us one of our unnamed points. So what's going on at F? What is the X coordinate at F? Or the theta coordinate at F, I guess, since I did the problem in degrees. Negative 15. So how am I going to take that negative 15 and combine it with the 720 to figure out where the X coordinate or the theta coordinate of F is at? What do we do? We just add them because the period is 720 degrees apart. So if we start at negative 15, we do add 720, and that'll tell us where we end. So we'll take the negative 15 plus the 720. So that's going to be 705. Awesome, thank you. Oh, wait, there's more. Up here at the top, from D to H is also one cycle. And the theta coordinate of D is 345. From D to H is also one cycle. So if D is at 345, H has theta of 345 plus a cycle later. So 1065. Because D is at the top and H is at the top. So that represents one cycle. The period is 720. That's the length of one cycle. So those horizontally will be 720 apart. How are we going to get the theta coordinate for Z? How are we going to go back to Z? We'll just subtract the 720. So from Z to D is also one cycle, but going the other way. D has theta of 345, so Z has theta of 345 minus 720. Let's see, it's going to be something negative. 7 minus 3 is 4. 2 minus, so 400 and negative 20, 400 and negative 20, negative 5. How much is that? 375? I'm doing arithmetic. I'm not very good at it, so I want to check my math. Any questions? You've got all this horizontal information now. Oh, there's even more horizontal information that we can get. From B to D was half of a period. or half of a cycle. The period is the actual value. I guess this, I should say half of a cycle. So halfway between B and D is the point C. So if from B to D is half of a cycle, what is it from B to C? A quarter of a cycle. From B to C is a quarter of a cycle. So if the period is 720, how far is it horizontally from B to C? So the period is 720. So how much is a quarter of a period? Well, this started with half of a period at 360. What's half of 360? 180. If you need to divide by 4, just divide by 2 twice. So if B to C is a quarter of a cycle, a quarter of a period is 180. If B is at negative 15, then C is negative 15 plus 180. So that's going to be 180 minus 15 is 170 negative 5, 165. But now we've only got half of the point at C, 165. Oops, half of a point. Not ready for parentheses. Any questions? We're just using what we know about horizontal information, that these points, the middles, the tops, and the bottoms are all a quarter of a cycle apart. Once we figure out that the cycle is 720, the period is 720, divide by 4, each of these points is 180 degrees apart. So if we start off at negative 15 and add the 180, we'll be at 165. If we add a 180 again, we'll be at the 345, so that checks out. If we add 180 again, we'll be at 525, and that's where we're going to find E. We'll be able to check by adding 180 again, and that puts us at 705 for F. That checks out. If we add 180 again, that'll put us at 885 for G. And if we add 180 again, that'll put us at 1065 for H. So right now, everything is checking out. If we go backwards, we go from negative 15 and subtract 180. So that's just the opposite of adding 180. A should be at negative 195. And then we get a chance to check by subtracting 180 again. And that puts us at negative 375. Then I have to act not surprised that I had previously made the correct calculation, even though I am a little bit surprised because I'm not very good at arithmetic. Any questions? Is there any other horizontal information that we can gather? It looks like all the horizontal coordinates have been filled in. Is there any other horizontal information that I've left off? Any horizontal questions that are left unanswered? The horizontal shift. Why didn't I ask for the horizontal shift? That's a good question. Let's leave that one aside for now. Let's try to figure out some vertical stuff. I know the bottom is down here at -6 and the top is at 4. That we can either use this information to tell us where the middle is, or we can use this information to tell us the amplitude. How can we use this to find the middle? Or how can we use this to find the amplitude? Find the difference. So from the top to the bottom, how far is that? From 4 all the way down to -6. That's going to be 10. And so what's the amplitude going to be? 5. Awesome. So now that we know, since we have the the vertical distance from 4 to -6 is 10, half of that is the amplitude, because I got an amplitude from the middle to the top and amplitude from the middle to the bottom. So the top minus the bottom the top is at 4 and the bottom is at -6. So the distance from the top to the bottom is going to be 4 minus a -6, which is 4 plus 6, or 10. This is 2 amplitudes from the middle to the top and the middle to the bottom. And so that tells us the amplitude is 10 divided by 2, or 5. Great. Got an amplitude of 5. What can I do with this information? Now that I've got an amplitude of 5, the top is at 4, and the bottom is at -6. How do we use this to find the vertical shift, or the middle? So we got 4. It's a distance of 5 from the middle to the top. If the top is at 4, where's the vertical shift going to be? At -1. Let's see, -1, if we go down 5 from -1, that should put us at -6, and that checks out. So from -6 plus 5 is at -1. -1 plus 5 is 4. Also, you're looking for something halfway between. The vertical shift will be the average of the two things that's halfway between. 4 plus -6 is -2, divided by 2 is 1. So if we take the top minus the amplitude, that'll give us the vertical shift. That'll also give us all the y coordinates on the middle. They're all y coordinate -1. So the vertical shift would be the top minus the amplitude, or the bottom plus the amplitude. Is everybody okay? So this still leaves the question of why I didn't ask for the horizontal shift. That was a horizontal piece of information, and I didn't ask for that. I didn't say, what is the horizontal shift? Notice that I also didn't say where this function starts, because the function goes on forever to the left and forever to the right. So when we talk about a point where we start, that's only to help us figure out what the horizontal shift is and whether we have plus or minus cosine or plus or minus sine. So if we start at the bottom, we think of a negative cosine. If we start at the top, that's positive cosine. If we start at the middle going up, that's positive sine. If we start at the middle going down, that's negative sine. So the reason that I didn't tell you, I didn't ask for the horizontal shift, is the horizontal shift depends on what we consider to be our starting point. So I didn't ask for the horizontal shift because this depends on what we consider the starting point. So there isn't the horizontal shift. It depends on what we consider to be the starting point. So the last thing that we want to do is take this information, the amplitude, the vertical shift, the period of 720, pick a starting point, and I want you to write an equation for the function. So next week, or not next week, next time, because today's Tuesday. Next time, that is on Thursday, I want at least 4 different equations for this function. The four different ones are plus and minus cosine, plus and minus sine. So those are the 4 possibilities. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different points to choose from. Only a certain number of them make sense, so we'll pick which ones are considered the best on Thursday. But that's what we want. I want 4 equations for the function. Any questions? All right, that's going to do it for today. I will see you all on Thursday, and we'll all have 4 different equations for this function.